Hello everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack, and today the time has come for me to choose between the Lexus LS400 and the famed Bismarck, or Sumo and the Bismarck as each one is known. Now what I'm going to do in this video is just talk about, the problem is both of these cars actually still need some work. So in this video I'm going to talk about what is left to do with the Lexus and the positives and pluses of keeping it, and what is left and still going on with the Bismarck, and what the positives and maybe negatives of keeping that are, and then at the end you can tell me what you think. Let's start with the Bismarck. I have actually done lots of little things that have substantially improved it. So I wanted to try and fiddle a little bit more with that mixture screw on the mechanical fuel injection, just to see if I could get it to run better, because it was still really lumpy low down. And I actually found that turning it down, I believe, because I was turning it anti-clockwise, so I think that's reducing the amount of fuel going in, was actually what was needed. Like in just, you know, sort of, first of all, like about 1/8 of a turn, then just tiny increments. And it made it miles better. So the first time I actually richened it slightly, and I thought that had made it better, but now, absolutely, it had like a really lumpy idle, and that is gone. I wouldn't say it's completely still 100%, but it is really good and perfectly usable as it is. Big improvements there, and I am super happy about that. Also, just again, other little things, but the badge has gone back on the bonnet, and when you're driving it, just makes a difference. I know it sounds silly, but just seeing that little three-pointed star, it's just ace. Now, there are lots of little other cosmetic things. So finally the side, the side trim, the plastic side trim, which goes on the doors and everything with the chrome, that's now been put on because I was missing the lower clips. And I'm just not quite sure what to do next, because I don't really want to spend much. You know, I don't want to spend more money on this car because I don't know what's happening with it, and I don't think anything I'm going to do particularly is going to add much more value to what it has already. The interior, of course, I could change the seats. I don't know how it's going to look without all the proper bits. I still need, I think at the very least, I would need a center console and lower dash, and I don't think it makes sense, quite frankly. So I don't know what I'm going to do about the interior, but it's driving really nicely. The other things, of course, still to do are those brake lines that are thinner at the front, at the end. They do need replacing at some point. I still don't think it would fail an MOT like that, but it's, I don't know. Ollie certainly thought they needed doing, you know, sooner rather than later. And of course, he also said that ball joint had play in it, so that still needs doing. There is the rust at the front by under the washer bottle, which again I don't think is a big deal, but it does need doing. So there's still a lot of stuff to do, but I have other things on my mind. It's not making sense, these project cars for YouTube, when I have to plow loads of money into them, because it just cuts into my YouTube profits. So I don't know. I'm kind of partly tempted to just keep this and keep slowly doing stuff to it while I use it as a daily, because it is running so much better now, honestly. It is a totally different car to when I first got it. Not just the paintwork, but also on reflection. Now I know what this one is running like. It was running pretty badly when I first got it. It is so much nicer now. Now Sumo, the Lexus, well, the water leaks are finally fixed and it is dry. It hasn't got condensation inside, and that is brilliant. And it always feels like the kind of car, which isn't quite true about the Bismarck, that when you turn that key, you just know that it's going to start and it's just going to go. And it is an incredibly nice drive. Yes, those front shocks, they still aren't the right ones, so I don't think the ride is as good as it should be. But I've twiddled with them a little bit now, and it's perfectly livable with as it is right now. If I was to keep it long term, I would change those shocks, because I would just want it to ride as it was supposed to. But it goes, you know, it goes fine, and it's perfectly okay as it is. There are other issues though. The instrument cluster is still dark, so some of the warning lights work, Everything works on it, but it doesn't light up, and I haven't been able to fix it. I think the best solution for that is to buy a second-hand one. I just missed one on eBay, which was really frustrating, they're about £100, so it's not a deal breaker, it's just a question of waiting for one. Then, what else is going on with, oh yes, then having done that, the interior, well, it needs recolouring here in the passenger side and on the armrest, but this seat here, the driver's seat is actually torn. So kind of really, to make it all really nice, that would need doing as well. Now, if I'm not going to keep a car, or I'm not sure I'm going to keep it, I'm not going to do all of that stuff, because it's not going to add any value. Also, it's got close to 200,000 miles now, so the cam belt service is due. Now, I know you can get Lexus quote £300 to do that, but then if they say you also have to do the water pump and everything else, the price of that goes up. And I think actually, if I bought the bits online, which you can buy for about 200 or something, that's including the water pump and so on. And if I did it myself, it would end up costing about 250. If I took it somewhere, I mean, we're looking about £500. But again, in terms of what it's worth as it is and what it's worth once I've done all that, it will be worth more, but probably not as much as I'm going to spend. The front shocks, the replacement ones from Rock Auto in the US to standard spec, so the good ones, because they have several cheaper ones, they would be £250 landed in the UK, including tax, which again isn't bad. But I'm just looking at adding loads of spending and then potentially selling it. Not really worth it, I think. Now, in terms of refinement, there's absolutely no question that this is miles ahead of the Bismarck, as you would expect pretty much. It's a much nicer car to drive. The engine is smoother, it's pokier, it's more refined, it's quieter. It is the nicer car to drive, full stop. One other thing I guess to consider is also, if I decide to sell, if I'm weighing up which one to sell, is that this is, I'm pretty sure this is an easier car to sell, even as it is now. I mean, I've had a look on eBay, and LS400s of this vintage in worse condition, because yes, this has some issues, but what it doesn't have is any rust, which is unbelievable. And I think the cheapest I saw on eBay of one of these, which had several problems of its own, more serious than these, I think that went for about £2,000. So I think this would be the easier car to sell, and that's also something to bear in mind, I suppose. So I don't know. I mean, in one way, well, I could keep both cars, just keep running them as they are. And why not do that? No, I do think I really need to sell one of these, and also my Austin Healey Sprite, and just reorganise things a bit. I'd like to get a Lancia Fulvia, whilst also thinning down the connection for cars that I don't actually have to have. Tell me what you think. I've changed my own mind several times. For a while I thought I'm definitely going to keep the Lexus because it's going to be more reliable, easier car to own, it's nicer to drive. I mean, the Bismarck is nice to drive, but this is really a nice car to drive, and so on and so on. But then I've got so much invested in that car, I've done so much to it, I've transformed it so much that I think it would give me more satisfaction to keep the Bismarck and keep doing bits to it, because it's been such a big change and it can continue to evolve. Whereas this, really, it wasn't a personal project. So yes, putting the new cluster in, a second-hand cluster when I can find one, that will be lovely and that'll make it nice. And doing the suspension will make it ride as it should, and that will also be nice. But in terms of tangible satisfaction from doing those jobs versus fixing the rest of that rust in the water bottle and just continuing to tinker and improve things on the Bismarck, I think the Bismarck would probably give me more satisfaction. That doesn't mean I have to keep it though, so do let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll find out what happens over the next few weeks.